So I heard a lot of people raving last year about this Netflix animated series, Blue Eye Samurai. Just reviews off the charts. A lot of you were talking about it. And so when the time came to pick something new to watch, I asked you guys. And holy crap, was that a landslide of a... Yeah, but now because of that, I am terrified. Because I think I am the only one on the planet that didn't think this show was amazing. But hopefully I can present my case here as to why, for you not to agree, but to at least understand where I'm coming from and why I didn't think this, just basically why it didn't hit me personally. And hello, it's Westside Otaku if it's your first time here. I like to talk about anime with you now and then, maybe do some rankings or tier lists soon. I think that'd be fun. What would you like me to do? That should be fun to do one about like Netflix anime, because I feel like there's a lot of those that'd be good to... Oh god, that's actually a good idea. And first off, just the setup if you haven't heard of this show. I'm not going to drop any spoilers here. If you do want to talk about spoilers, I will plug something in towards the end of this. But the setup to the show is basically, it takes place in much older Japan. I'm going to be terrible when it comes to history in this, but it's way back in the older era of Japan where they literally just, they don't allow anybody into this country that's a foreigner. You know, it's only the Japanese, hence they create pure-blooded Japanese people. And that is kind of important for the premise of the show because the main character is our blue-eyed samurai. And it's a character that not only is that, you know, blue eyes, meaning they have foreign blood in them because Japanese don't usually have blue eyes for whatever reason. And Mizu, the main character, is on a quest of vengeance. That is a thing. If you are not into vengeance tales, this might not be for you. And that is kind of a tease for later. Because, yeah, Mizu is looking for somebody to kill, and their circumstance, you know, being a blue-eyed person, it just kind of adds this discrimination factor that I really wasn't expecting to get from this show. I knew nothing going in. I just thought it was a character trait. But, you know, describing that foreign policy, it added some, you know, potential depth to this character. And there are things about the character that I didn't like. But before I get to that, let me just say what I liked about this show that I think everybody that watched it can pretty much agree on. First off, the presentation. Like, the animation of this show has a certain style to it that just, it gives me that grit that Primal had. I don't know if you guys have heard of that show, Primal, like a Warner Brothers thing that the Samurai Jack creator did. It reminds me of that with its brutality, but then the visual look of those kind of like 3D anime feelings, you know, like it just had that, it had a certain vibe to it that made it really easy to make it feel like it's owning what it is. A show that has such a Kill Bill style to it so many times. Like there's one episode in particular, and it's one of my two favorite episodes, that was just absolute Kill Bill, because that's another thing you should probably really like about this show is the action. Is it realistic? Who knows? Is it well choreographed? Who knows? I just think the action in the show is one of the best parts about it as well. Like, every action sequence that Mizu especially is in, because Mizu is a very badass samurai. I don't know if I mentioned that, but they're on a quest of vengeance, and they have the battle skills to pull it off. And it was pretty jarring at times too, like kind of transitioning to the things that I questioned and maybe didn't like about this show. I respect how there were certain scenes in this show that just really felt real. Like, this is a very, very rated R show. You're going to see boobies, you're going to see blood, you're going to see even down there. This is a very M-rated show. That was just a premise that I really wasn't expecting to dive into this, but they kind of had to do that because of the subject matter of a lot of these characters and what they deal with between prostitution and kind of crime lords and so on and so forth, and just making us really feel the authenticity of it all. But in order to be very attached to a show, you want to see the main character get out of the situations they're in. You want to see the character succeed in their goals. You want to see them change their mind about certain things if they're like an anti-hero or something. Mizu as the main character just didn't give me that. And that's the part where I am sure I will get comments of the wazoo going, what the heck are you talking about? You don't sympathize with Mizu. You don't think that they deserve this vengeance and so on. No. The thing about Mizu, and don't worry, like I have more praise to say about certain other characters, but Mizu is the main character. And that's why this is really important to me, because I want to root for the character's goal. But Mizu as a character is somebody that just feels so wrong for even existing, but not in the way of like they hate themselves, but rather they just hate the circumstances, at least this is my interpretation of it, that brought them into this world because of the whole foreign blood situation and just the fact that I live in this world and the fact that my mother had to deal with what she did and the fact that just everything around me is this and that. Like it just feels like sometimes, and this is the controversial part, I know people are going to be, the comments in this video are going to be really interesting. It just feels like a child that it is, I need to kill these people because I want to make sure they don't create anybody like me ever again. And that is a very deep thing for sure, but I couldn't get behind it because it's like, I want you to not accept your life, but just to value the life that you have and try to make a difference in other ways. But for Mizu, this is the only way they feel they can change the world. I am going to use combat. This is the thing that gets me, like, this is what I'm good at. Sometimes it just felt like I just want to get back at them and let my freaking anger out on my life on them. And I know that sounds totally inaccurate, and maybe it is inaccurate, but that's just to me how I felt about Mizu. Other than my second favorite episode of the series, which was when you finally get background of this person. I wanted to feel sympathy for the reason they have vengeance. That is very important to me, to any vengeance story. But many would argue, well, it's about the woman and the absolute shit circumstance that they deal with. Absolutely. This show, it just really paints a picture as to how women are so just treated like crap in this time period. You literally only had two options: either marry into a rich family or become a whore. That's literally your only options if you're a woman in this like time period and place. It's ridiculous. It's awful. And there should be change. And that is where two much more compelling characters come into play, which is Akemi and Taigen. Like, Akemi is a woman in this show that she is that situation. She comes from a royal family, let's just call it, and she is being married into a higher family, but she just doesn't want that. She wants to be able to choose her husband. She wants to be able to have the life that she wants. And her journey in the show, at first I was worried about it, but as it goes on, it's like, it's actually a more compelling tale. Like, she's searching for somebody that she loves, and in that whole journey, she kind of is becoming more and more of a character that like is either falling into a dark path, or maybe one that's just like again, I get it. I get what you're doing. I'm worried about where you're going to go with this, though. And then Taigen's the other half. Like, Taigen is a man that is a very honorable samurai, which is a great contrast to Mizu, who literally is somebody that is just there to get their vengeance. That's it. Mizu just wants to kill the people that they're looking for. That's all. Like, they're like trying to get rid of sympathy, trying to not have friends, just a person that is on this blood path. Whereas Taigen, on the other hand, is somebody that simply wants their honor back. Taigen is actually a really cool character that I really like the whole time. His little quips. It's neat to see his character journey too, as somebody that has connections to Mizu that I won't say, but it's neat to see like where he was. And then by the end of this series, who he kind of becomes and how he and his, I'll call loosely, relationship with Mizu, like, I just thought those two as characters, as well as a lot of the other supporting cast, were just much more relatable than Mizu. I don't even want to say relatable. I just want to say like more understanding as to what their motives are and where they're coming from. To put like the cliff note on Mizu, it just feels like Mizu is a monster that was created by the world. And I almost feel like that character, the blue-eyed samurai, would be a better element as like just a character in the show, like somebody that is in every episode that all the characters are chasing and everything, which they kind of are. But I don't want the story told through that character, if that makes sense. And the villains of this world too, like villains are very important. Villains are people that, you know, you want to see go down, or are ones that, you know, you come to, again, understand why they're doing what they're doing, but they're doing it the wrong way. You know, there's just something about them that just despises you. And these guys are just pieces of shit. That's the thing. They're just bad people. And there's not much about them that's really that interesting or compelling or deserving of what they're doing or anything. They're just, it's more so the world as a whole that is just frustrating to know this is how the circumstances are. And it was interesting. And there's a lot of, I'm sure, research and history that went into this and portraying everything as accurately as possible. You really do feel that. But to me, the highlights were just when Taigen and Akemi were doing their things and just trying to see them get what they want, and the action sequences and the art style, like, and the music, just everything about the presentation of the show and the supporting cast was awesome. And it makes me really happy for Netflix because they've been on a streak of some highly reviewed produced stuff between like Cyberpunk and Arcane, which are two other shows that reviewed incredibly high that I wasn't as much of a fan of. So maybe I'm just somebody that, maybe I have crap taste. I don't know. Like this show and those two I mentioned are easily much better than something like Agresco. But at the end of the day, Agresco is a show that I deeply adored, and I did a whole piece on that. But if you want a full spoiler cast on this, then go to the pinned comment because I have a full thing that I did there. But let me know what you thought of Blue-Eyed Samurai and how much my opinion is crap taste.